And how do you promote, we protect each other?
You know what, Carol? You don't have to. Some of that is innate. You know what? You may be annoying, but you're my annoying sister. But nobody better mess with you. And that's not necessarily universally true, but so much of that is innate. Now, obviously, I talked about non-biological sisters or sisters who don't, it may be stepsisters or half sisters, and that might be a little different. But I'm talking more about biological sisters who grew up in the same household, shared the same parents, and so forth for the most part. And I think there is something biological there about you don't mess with my family member. Brooke Shields' two daughters said their mother really worked hard at trying to make sure they were close. I had others who, Stacey Sager, a local journalist in New York, talked about her mother modeling closeness with her mother and sister and all of that. So there were plenty of examples of people who said their mothers made a conscious effort to try to see their daughters become closer. But I think there's something there that's just innate.
Hello, I'm Carol Sutton Lewis, and this is the first ever episode of Ground Control Parenting Book Talks, where we're looking at interesting books through a parenting lens. Today, I'm joined by my good friend Deborah Roberts, award-winning journalist and longtime ABC News reporter and correspondent, and a regular visitor to the Ground Control Parenting podcast. Deborah's also the author of several books, including her most recent Sisters Loved and Treasured, Stories of Unbreakable Bonds. Sisters Loved and Treasured is a beautiful and deeply personal collection of stories about the bonds of sisterhood, how they shape us and sustain us. Deborah draws on her own experience growing up as one of 6 sisters, along with conversations with women from all walks of life, to explore what these relationships give us and what they ask of us. I always love talking with Deborah about, everything, but especially parenting. And in this mini episode, shot while both of us were out and about, I'm in a hotel room and she's, I think, in a storeroom somewhere. We look at some of the sister relationships she profiles in this book, including her relationships with her own sisters, and what this can teach parents about how to help their children form these important lifelong bonds. So, welcome to Book Talk. So glad you're here. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to Ground Control Parenting. I'm Carol Sutton Lewis, and this is Ground Control Parenting Book Talk, where we take interesting books that aren't necessarily parenting books, and we look at them through a parenting lens. Today, I am joined by my good friend Deborah Roberts, yay, journalist and author of many books, including Sisters Loved and Treasured, which is a beautiful and deeply personal collection of stories about the bonds of sisterhood, how they shape us, sustain us. Well, let me say that the bonds between sisters, because unfortunately I have no sisters, but the bonds between actual sisters, how they shape us, sustain us, and sometimes challenge us. So Deborah draws on her own experience as growing up as one of 6 sisters, along with conversations with women from all walks of life, to explore what these relationships give us and what they ask of us. And today, we're taking that conversation a step further, looking at what sister relationships can teach us as parents, raising children who are learning every day how to live with and love each other. So welcome to the Book Talk, Deborah.
I'm so happy to be here, Carol. And let me start off by saying the sisterhood bond is powerful, whether it's biological or not.
Okay, good. Good. I agree with that. Yes, I've been thinking about that as I read the book and thought about our conversation. So I don't have any biological sisters, but I have strong sisterhood feeling towards women for sure. So, of course, I always love to talk to you about everything, including parenting. And I'm especially interested in looking at it through the lens of sisterhood, especially since I never had one. So let's get started. So your book, Sisters Loved and Treasured, it's such a great exploration of sisterhood. And you had the perfect research lab because you were one of 7. You were one of 6 sisters. There were 7 girls in your family. So first question, did this book come out of wanting to celebrate the realm of sisterhood more, or from wanting to explore its complications?
You hit it right on the head right there. It was about exploring the complications. Because, I mean, of course, I want to celebrate it because I love my sisters dearly and I grew up in a house full of sisters. But I have noticed, as many people have as they've gotten older, that the relationships have shifted. And they're not always a straight line and they're not always easy. And My youngest sister is 5 years younger than I am. My oldest sister, who's now passed away, was 18 years older.
Mm.
And so these age gaps were very interesting. And hearing and talking to other people about their sisters and the complexities, I was feeling a certain amount of guilt about the fact that I'm not as connected to some as I was years ago or would like to be. And is that unusual? And am I a bad sister? The more I began to talk to other people, friends of mine who do have sisters, I realized it is perfectly normal that you cycle in and out of these relationships and that they are complex and they're not all, skipping through the meadow with the flowers in your basket and all so happy. There are complications. There are sisters who don't get along, who don't see eye to eye, but there's a glue, Carol, that kind of holds them together. There's something that says, even though you and I don't necessarily have a lot in common, I know when the chips are down, you're there for me.
Yeah.
And there was something about that, and I wanted to explore that with my own sisters. And I did discover some things with my own sisters that I think enriched and I think sort of edified all of us.
So what a wonderfully and appropriately journalistic approach to an issue. You're like, I'm feeling a little guilty. Let's explore this.
Yep.
I get that. So,
Yeah.
okay, there were 7 girls and 2 boys in your family, and I'm going to certainly impress my husband by coming up with a sports analogy for this part of the question. So, with so many kids, parenting has to be less of a man-to-man defense and more of a zone approach because there are just too many
Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
You were the 7th of 9 kids. Did you feel that growing up that your sisters were actively involved in parenting you? I mean, and some of them were. I mean, certainly the ones that were much older. And how did that impact your bond with them? Did it make them closer to you, or did that complicate it?
It's interesting because I heard this from other women as well. Because I had older sisters and I had this experience of having sisters who weren't closely knit with me in terms of age, there were, sisters. My sister Janet, who is, I don't know now, maybe if I think about it, she's 7 years older than I am. But when I was younger, that's a huge gap. If I'm 10 and she's 17, and Janet was always so great about wanting to reach out to me and make sure that I was okay and that I wasn't scared about my period and that I wasn't nervous about my body and my developing breasts and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get so embarrassed when she would come up and talk to me or maybe come in the bathroom and go, make little jokes with me when I was naked getting out of the shower. And I was like, you're nuts. You're nuts. But that was her way of making her little sister feel less self-conscious and in a way, I guess, less insecure about who she is and her body. So she sort of helped parent a little bit. My mom was a little quiet about those things. I remember when I got my period, my mom put a pamphlet on my bed
Ha!
and just like left. It's like, learn what you need to know here. I don't want to get into this.
Right, right.
But my sister Janet wanted to talk to me about it. And we became really close because she cared about her little sister that way. And so I think different ones of us formed different bonds. And then I was also probably a little bit heavier, leaning with my younger sisters in terms of trying to maybe help them. So yeah, there were moments, and I've heard this from other sisters too, depending on the age gap, where you felt like one sister in your family might have felt like a second mom.
Yeah, yeah,
And there's
yeah.
something lovely in that.
Yeah, yeah, no, I get that sense. I can imagine that would be the case.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's different when it's not the same sex because there's 7 years between my oldest and my youngest. But my oldest is a girl, my youngest is a boy, and I don't think that she, particularly because the middle one was a boy as well, I don't think that she took on any kind of parenting care. I mean, she loved her little brother, but he was just the little brother, not the one that she had to impart any wisdom towards.
Yeah, there's something about girls when they had a little sister and they wanted to treat them like a little baby doll or she's mine. I want to help out. There is something unique about that sister bond, Carol. Sorry to say it, but it is true.
Yeah, no, I certainly get that. And now I want to talk about some themes came up through the course of reading the book amongst many of the people you spoke with that I want to talk about through the parenting angle, the parenting perspective on this. And the first one is comparison. So many people in the book, so many women define themselves in relationship to their sisters as they were talking about growing up together. They were the smart one versus the pretty one. They were the athletic one. What do you think about the roles that parents play, intentionally or not, about defining the roles within sister relationships? And how do you think that impacts the bond?
It's absolutely true. And I think that we are more aware of that now. So parents may not make the same mistake in the same way that our parents did today, or maybe not as frequently, but absolutely true. My sister Janet was the pretty one, the lovely, just like gorgeous girl.
Mhm.
My sister Benny was the clever one, the smart one, the ambitious one. My sister Tina was sort of the hot-headed one. Those roles just kind of came along the way.
Mhm.
I was a little bit shy and insecure. Carol, because of the rainbow of colors, and you know about colorism, and I'm sure you've talked about this in some of your talks.
Mhm.
I was the darker skinned one in the family. My mother was fairer skinned, my father darker skinned. We had kind of a range of colors in our family, and I felt a certain amount of insecurity because of that.
Mhm.
And I think my mom wanted to put her arms around me a little tighter, make sure I felt okay. I wasn't, you know, uptight about that. And I do think that those roles kind of stuck a little bit.
Mm.
And my youngest sister was kind of the little spoiled one.
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's the way I thought of her.
Mhm.
And we talked about that in the course of writing this book when we all just talked about our childhood memories. And she and I think, have a clearer understanding of each other now. I didn't realize how much she felt left out. I don't I probably didn't realize how much she felt judged by me because I was a more accomplished, older sister who, was off and running. So those roles do impact us. Doesn't mean you have to wallow in them and stay in them and that they have to define you the rest of your life. But I think we have to recognize that they're real. And, let's do what we can to sort of shake them off and to try to move on in our lives and redefine ourselves. But they definitely are absolutely true. And I heard this from other women in talking about their sisters as well.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that's right. I think it's inevitable. I mean, particularly look, you had so many sisters. I mean, there is
Yeah.
an inevitability to it,
Yeah.
but I do think parents need to just be mindful. I mean, if some of the labels stick and some of the kids create their own labels, it's not the parents putting it on them. But I think if you're mindful of it and you think about the potential
Yeah.
harm, maybe you could make a joke about it, or maybe as a parent you can follow up the statement with, oh, come on, we know that's not the case. You're also the whatever. I mean, there's a way to. I don't know that we can eliminate it completely, but at least you can be a little sensitive to how
Aware
somebody,
of it.
might not want that. It's so interesting because when I read the a part about the model and her sister, Kim Alexis, I believe
Yes, Kim Alexis and her sister. She was a supermodel in the movies.
and perhaps not surprising, the sister was saying that Kim was the pretty one, and Kim's like, I wasn't the pretty one, and so it's like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you're a supermodel. Clearly, you were pretty, but I mean, even when the labels are kind of obvious, people push back against them.
Yeah. No, it is true. It is true. And I think that what was fun about writing this book is hearing sisters explore this in ways that they hadn't before, or maybe didn't feel comfortable before, or maybe they knew, but there was no reason to really talk about it at this stage in life. And for them to do that and to sort of unburden themselves. And then also for maybe the sister to realize, I felt this way. You felt that way. I never knew that. Oh my gosh. It was really an awakening for a lot of the sisters. And I really enjoyed that while exploring this book.
Yeah, no, it really comes through. It's fun to read about. You can see that in the various conversations.
We'll be right back after these messages. I am so excited to share that Ground Control Parenting is working with Donors Choose. Our work is all about supporting Black and Brown children, and that means supporting the classrooms and teachers shaping their lives every day. So this season, thanks to Donors Choose, I'm giving my Ground Control Parenting guests a Donors Choose card, a gift card from Donors Choose. They can head to donorschoose.org and they can choose a classroom that resonates with them. It's such a simple way to do so much good. And trust me, the thank you notes you get from the classroom are amazing and so worth it. Thank you, Donors Choose. Welcome back to the show.
So the next one I want to talk about, we've kind of almost covered it, but it's a little different, and that's the concept of favoritism. I mean, there's certainly comparison, but there's also favorites. Now, I know you had a conversation with your sister that's recorded in the book where you say, your sister says, I felt like Mama loved you the best of everyone. And in your response, you talked about what you just talked about, sort of the potential reason for that in terms of the colorism. But when you were little, clearly you didn't do that analysis immediately. How did that make you feel when you were sort of branded as the favorite?
Well, you know what? I felt a little uncomfortable. I mean, on the one hand, it made me feel special.
Mm-hmm.
I love that my mom and I had a special bond.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think I was completely conscious of it when I was growing up, but it's not a surprise to hear them mention it now.
Mm-hmm.
So I think more than anything else, I own it now as maybe an impediment in the relationship with my younger sister and I. And so now I think it gives me a deeper understanding of what she might have gone through. And as you said, that was what I felt as a kid. I certainly understand the nuances of parenting. I'm a parent. I get it now. You have different relationships with different kids. But the idea that she felt that, maybe she felt some hurt because of it. And also, too, the fact that I wasn't really aware. So I think, if anything, Carol, with all of these issues that we discover, and when we look back on our lives, the best we can do is, I think, try to understand them and try to, give each other a little grace
Mm-hmm.
and a little empathy. I'm giving my sister a little more empathy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And our relationship is strengthened.
Yeah. I thought about that passage a lot, because I had two older brothers, and I was certainly, as the only girl and the baby, there was a lot that I got that a lot. I don't think my brother, because one of my brothers I lived with, and the other one was from my father's first marriage, so I didn't live with them. But I don't think that my brother kind of leveled that at me as a insult when we were growing up, but I definitely could tell. I thought, and I could even tell when I was young that maybe that wasn't 100% fair. I mean, I could, because I was the one who loved school. I was the one who did well. I was the one, but you hold two things. I mean, you said it. And on the one hand, you feel special. And, if what you are doing is trying to be the good girl and you are seeing it positively reinforced, you're like, okay, that works. I mean, I'm doing this right.
Exactly.
It feels good to have this special attention, but it becomes a burden when you realize, particularly as you get older, that, gosh, that must have been really hard for everyone else. It's weird though, because I can't deny that a part of that helped build my confidence about who I am. I mean, the feeling of feeling special is a good feeling, and that's a feeling that you can build confidence from. But I do think, clearly, in the abstract, favoritism is never a good idea in parenting.
Yes. I agree. I think we all know that. And we know more now than our parents knew 50 years ago. We know about this. We talk about the psychology of so many things in child rearing. So look, the fact of it is, it's not perfect. It's not an exact science, parenting. And it's never going to be fair and even and level, but we do the best we can.
Right.
And I think we take what we knew growing up. I mean, the way I parent my children now, I try to think about that. Leila has made jokes before about Nick being I have a soft spot for him. Not so much that he's a favorite, but it's very clear I have a soft spot for him. He has sometimes said, well, Leila got away with this, and what about...
Yeah.
And so I think, if nothing else, we give them a voice a little bit more than our parents gave us. And we try to be more understanding. And hopefully, while we may not necessarily break every single cycle, I think we try to be a little bit better about it today than maybe our parents knew how to be so many years ago.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. And I do think, certainly with my kids, what's different now is that the kids push back and in real time try to talk about this circumstance, as opposed to feeling this in their heart, being burdened by this. I mean, if one of the kids thinks that I'm favoring them, they'll say, oh gosh, you're just mom's favorite. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have the opportunity to try to correct it in real time.
But they put it out there, Carol, and we didn't even put it out there.
Right. No, we just kind of either were benefited or burdened by it in the moment.
And suffered in silence.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And dealt with it later.
My next question, this one I loved creating because it's something that I don't know anything about. In the book, a lot of sisters talked about how they had their sisters' back against bullies. Like, regardless of, we were there, but nobody was messing with my sister, which since I didn't have, that just sounded so wonderful. But it struck me from a parenting perspective, like, how do you teach that kind of loyalty at home, especially if just the daughters aren't really getting along? And how do you promote, we protect each other?
You know what, Carol? You don't have to. Some of that is innate. Some of that is innate. You know what? You may be annoying, but you're my annoying sister. But nobody better mess with you. And that's not necessarily universally true, but so much of that is innate. I think even amongst sisters who didn't get along, yeah, you drive me crazy, whatever, but you're my sister. And nobody better talk about you. So I think some of that just comes with, now, obviously, I talked about non-biological sisters or sisters who don't, it may be stepsisters or half sisters. And that might be a little different, but I'm talking more about biological sisters who grew up in the same household, shared the same parents and so forth for the most part. And I think there is something biological there about you don't mess with my family member.
Okay.
So I don't think you have to teach that as parents. I mean, Brooke Shields' two daughters said their mother really worked hard at trying to make sure they were close. I had others who, Stacy Sager, a local journalist in New York, talked about her mother modeling closeness with her mother and sister and all of that. So there were plenty of examples of people who said their mothers made a conscious effort to try to see their daughters become closer. But I think there's something there that's just innate.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's good to know. And for parents out there who have feuding sisters and siblings and children,
they've got something there that holds them together, even in the worst of times, against the world.
Good. So parents, hold on to that. and certainly from the women in your book, that certainly has proven to be true. So now I want to turn a little bit more personally, because you include a chapter between Leila Roker, your daughter, and Courtney Roker, your stepdaughter. And it's a beautiful chapter where they talk about how they worked through, there's 11-year difference between the two of them. Courtney's 11 years older than Leila. And it's a lovely conversation about how they formed their bond, starting at the origins that were potentially, they were confusing and awkward. They were young. And now they have this strong and loving bond where they share things, they connect on so many levels, and they really feel so strongly and great about each other. Now, I love that chapter. Yeah. The thing that was missing for me, and it was the role of mom in that, because I have to imagine, I know that it takes a mom to help make this circumstance. It is, they didn't do this on their own. So, it takes parents. Yeah. How did you approach helping them work together to form their relationship?
Well, I have to be honest with you. If I'm going to be honest in this book, I didn't get a chance to talk about this, but it was complicated. Courtney's mother, her late mother now, who's since passed away, was not a very happy person about Al's new life and his new family. And Courtney and Leila talk about that, the resentment and some of the jealousy and things that they faced. I think for me, I would like to think, and I wasn't perfect throughout the whole situation, I think I tried to foster a good situation as Courtney grew older. We had a lot of issues as she was younger, but I tried to embrace her and make sure that she knew our family was her family. And they had their ups and downs, but I think some of it was just maturity. I think I laid the groundwork there for them to be close, but I think ultimately they chose. And they say that they chose to be close to each other. And I think once Courtney felt safe that she could be close to me without feeling like she was betraying her mother. And I could create an environment when she came to visit and she and Leila could have fun and I could be warm toward her. I think that went a long way toward healing that bond that might have been frayed. And I think mostly I have to give the credit to them. They chose, as they said, they chose to have a bond that could be strong. And that was their doing.
I'm glad to hear that, but it makes me think that parents who are involved in a divorce, who have kids, need to really understand that whatever the circumstances of your separation, your children are going to have a blended family, and if your children are going to have a blended family, it's sort of your natural instinct to not be supportive because of the nature of the breakup can really hurt your kids. I know that's not the.
It behooves you. It behooves you to try to make that work.
Yeah. It is. It's much healthier for their development. I mean, that might not be top of mind as you're frustrated with the person who's not cooperating, and sometimes it falls to the mom. You have to work harder to make it work. I mean, you have to do more than you normally would want to do. But we need to think about the impact on the kid. And to your point, Deborah, it's not so easy being the mom in that circumstance. But you have to put the child first because.
Ahead of your emotions and your needs.
Yeah. Well, good kudos to you, because it's not easy, and I'm so happy to read of. I mean, I know I've seen it in person.
You've seen them in person.
Leila
You've seen it in action.
Yes, and Leila and Courtney have a wonderful and a relationship that will only get stronger as they share married life and down the line. So it's great. It's
children,
really great.
hopefully, and all of that.
Yeah. Okay, so my final question. So based on everything that you have seen in these books, give me something that parents should be particularly mindful of when raising sisters. Like what are some of your takeaways, the thing that parents could potentially impact in raising sisters?
I think that parents, and I'm going to talk about moms because that's my perspective. And I think moms get involved in this so much more.
Mm-hmm.
I think you cannot make them be close.
Mm-hmm.
You can encourage them to be close.
Mm-hmm.
You can send lessons and do things that might. Brooke Shields, for instance, talks about one of her daughters was acting up and being mean to one of her sisters, and she took away her birthday party one year. You're not having your party. Your friends are not coming over tomorrow. You're not having your party because you weren't nice to your sister, etc. And Brooke is an only child. She wanted her daughters to be close.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you can't will that to happen. You can set the foundation, but I think more than anything else, just encouraging, loving them even with their differences, and reminding them that this is a fleeting time when you're younger. If you're not close, it will matter to you later in life. And just sort of that example of family and why family matters, why family is nourishing. I think that's the best we can do. Of course, we're going to be aware you cannot make them closer, but I think you can sort of set a foundation that creates an environment for them to be close and to give them an example. In my case with my sisters, calling each other and trying to stay connected and all of us getting together. I know my daughter sees that. And I think that you can model it as well. So at the end of the day, we do the best we can, but just try to set a good example. And isn't that true, Carol, in almost everything we do?
That's true. Although I have to say, the doing the best we can, when I hear that, it does make me pause for a minute, because yes, in theory, everybody is doing the best they can. But part of the reason why I want to have these kind of conversations is the best that we can is really informed by what we know and what we think about in terms of parenting. So the best that we can, and the most well-informed that we can be.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Well, we do the best we can with what we know.
Right, exactly. And there's we should work on what we know, expanding what we know.
True. So true, which is why this is so important, because we get to hear from other parents and inform ourselves and maybe do better.
Exactly. That's exactly. There's no best, there's no perfect, but there's always room for thoughtful improvement. So
yeah, I agree.
So Deborah, as always, thank you so much. I'm so glad that we could do this. I'm so glad that both of our batteries held out, because that was an issue.
I know. I'm so happy. I'm looking at it now and I'm like, we held out. We made it.
These little mini episodes are my experiment with sort of the less formal approach. And as I plugged in today. I was like, ooh.
Well, I darted into somebody's office in a little shop that I'm in, and I don't even know where I am and if somebody may burst into the door any minute. So I'm glad it all worked out.
So I am too. 2 quick things before we go, because I always have to do my GCP lightning round. Give me just the mini version of it. A favorite saying or quote that you've been thinking about recently, and a couple of children's books, or let's just say general books, a couple of books that parents might want to know about that you like.
Well, I think we always have to think about the classics. I mean, A Whistle for Willie, Ezra Keats. I mean, just the old Good Night Moon. I'm sorry for those who have little kids.
Oh,
I think the classics are always the best.
mhm.
I just will never forget that. Good night, moon, good night. A bowl full of mush, and
Yeah.
the mom hush. But I have to say, the very first poem that I remember learning when I was in high school was Robert Frost. Two roads diverged in a yellow wood, and sorry I could not travel both. I took the one that was that's less traveled, and that has made all the difference. And that was my first thought about thinking about a path that you're going to take,
Mm-hmm.
and how you can choose something and decide to go with it, and make that narrative true for you. So it's an old, classic, poem, but it's one that I still always think about. The road less traveled, and just making that real, and making that important in your life. Choosing.
I love that, both for his message and for the way the message is conveyed, because that's why I love poetry. It'll spark a few words thoughtfully put together, can spark a whole new way of looking at things. So
And just think about how we remember these. I mean, that was like the first poem at age 14, 15, whatever I remembered from school, and it still sticks with me to this day.
that's one of those good things. I always worry that there are too many song lyrics in my head and it's pushing out things, but I think it's good to remember things like that.
Exactly. I totally agree with you. The old school moments.
Anyway, Deborah, thank you so much. You can leave your little
Of
office,
course.
and I will turn off my computer
Thank
before
you.
it dies. Take
Me
care.
too. Okay, Carol.
Okay.
Be well.
Bye. You too.
Take
Bye-bye.
care. Bye.
I hope everyone listening enjoyed this conversation, that you'll come back for more. Please subscribe, rate, and review where you find your podcasts, and tell your friends. For more parenting info and advice, please check out the Ground Control Parenting website at www.groundcontrolparenting.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram at Ground Control Parenting, and on LinkedIn under Carol Sutton Lewis. Until the next time, take care, and thanks for listening.